What's up, everybody? Happy Wednesday. Shad is playing hooky and going to the Detroit Tigers game with the family. So I've got the pilot seat today. Today we're going to have Kirk Barry on from Clarion GRC. He specializes in fraud and investigative work, mostly focused on the hemp industry. He's done some really interesting stuff, diving into consumer fraud around THCA flower, synthetics. So it should be a pretty well-to-do conversation. Just so everybody knows, tomorrow we are going to have Erwin Simon on for an earnings exclusive at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Out of the norm for scheduling, but Erwin will be on with us tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Tilray has earnings in the morning, and then we are going to have him on for a full download on the earnings report at 5 p.m. tomorrow after market. Hopefully it's positive. I know that their last earnings report was a stepping stone in the right direction. I've heard a couple of things that their hemp beverages are doing well. International is doing well. And it's going to be, hopefully it's going to be a positive. Their stock's been trading well for the past couple of weeks. It's a liquidity machine around a potential S3 announcement. And everything with Tilray has been on the up and up. And to boot, they got Spain that's coming online. So, as long as there's no write-downs, as long as there's no dilution, and everything's kind of kosher, I'm expecting a decent earnings report from them. And I think it's going to be a pretty good stepping stone, like I said, in the right direction. So, David, if Erwin is coming on, you'd have to assume that it's going to be a sign that it should be a decent report. Like I said, they report pre-market. Erwin will be on with us at 5 p.m. after market, and that it's going to be a live stream. But with further ado, we're going to have a little bit of a segment from Morgan & Morgan here to get that out of the way, and then we're going to jump into the interview with Kirk Barry.
Hey everyone, there's a reason investors get excited when a stock splits and suddenly feels twice as valuable. Just like there's a reason Morgan & Morgan is America's largest injury law firm. Think about it. When you're investing, you want the right team in your corner. The same is true if you're injured in dealing with an insurance company. And that is where Morgan & Morgan comes into the equation. Why? Well, they got more than 1,000 attorneys and over 100 offices nationwide. They've been fighting for the people for over 35 years. And their track record, get this, it's hard to ignore. Here's what I mean by that. One example, in Florida, a client was offered just $350,000, but walked away with $12 million. That would help the portfolio. In Pennsylvania, another client turned $650,000 into a $26 million offer. That's a 40x return. One more Pennsylvania client got $29 million after the insurer offered only $500,000. And in Florida, get this, someone received $20 million when the last offer on the table was literally zero. Think about that. So in total, Morgan & Morgan has recovered more than $25 billion for over 500,000 clients. That's like compounding wins in your portfolio every single year. So when you hire them, it's like bringing in a legal army that has your back. Because if you're injured due to someone else's negligence, you deserve to be paid. And let's be honest, not all law firms are created equally. Choosing the wrong one can cost you just like choosing the wrong stock can. So with Morgan & Morgan, get this, their fee, it's free unless they win. You can start your claim right now by clicking the link in the description or by scanning this QR code on your screen with your phone. At the end of the day, if you want what you deserve, make sure you go in with the right team by contacting Morgan & Morgan today. All right, now let's get back to the rest of our live stream.
Now that we got that out of the way, let's get Kirk up here, Arns, and kind of dive in. How's it going, sir? Good afternoon.
Here we are. Thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you for coming on short notice. I know it's been been looking forward to this one. We have a lot of conversations around the hemp industry. A lot of them are around COAs, potential fraud within the industry. A lot of it's combated with a lot of vitriol on the hemp side. Then a lot of it is shown a lot of light with a lot of data and facts to the contrary. So it's nice to have you. But before we kind of dive in to the conversation, I guess kind of give us a little bit of background on how you got into this. What you're currently doing and how you're qualified to be shining a light on especially the consumer fraud aspects in the hemp industry.
Sure. Well, I've been investigating issues for decades and decades, and I jumped off into the cannabis and hemp space in 2009. And as cannabis is maturing in California and Colorado and Washington, and eventually hemp rolls out on the scene, and I I actually enjoy, addressing issues of fraud, looking at documents, looking at information. What am I looking at that's right? What am I looking at that's wrong? I've taken coursework and college and university work and all kinds of related fields. I mean, there's no such thing as a degree in hemp fraud, right? It's or hemp document analysis, but there isn't document analysis, and I'm involved with a couple of great organizations in terms of document analysis and document fraud. And so here I am, and I travel the nation, and I test product on the shelf, and work on document and fraud issues, and that's in both the cannabis and the hemp sector. And maybe I can start by saying, look, I'm not against cannabis or hemp. I'm all for it. I'm against fraud. I'm against consumer fraud. I'm against somebody defrauding the people that they're selling product to in any one of a number of different ways. When you look at the hemp sector and some of what's gone on out there, I mean, there are a lot of people who've been seriously injured one way or another, whether it's a personal injury lawsuit or having their child taken away from them because they tested positive for D9, for cannabis, or any one of a number of different things. So
when you look, it's interesting that you looked at both sides of the coin, being the cannabis industry and the hemp industry. When you look at them both objectively, do you see more fraud one way or another? Have you seen extreme cases skew to one side? I mean, what do you see when you look at both of them comparatively?
Sure. Well, cannabis has its own issues, right? And I'm sure we're all familiar, heard about the struggles. But if I just take both industries and hold them up side by side, I say that cannabis is far further along in terms of label accuracy. If you just want to look at it, let's just look at it that way: label accuracy, right? And maybe inversion and diversion too. Than the hemp sector is. But I would break the hemp sector down. You have gummies, you have flour, pre-rolls, vape pens, beverages now, right? Or maybe the latest thing to roll onto the shelf. And, beverages and gummies, I really don't see a lot of fraud in those areas, but it is overwhelming in the vape cartridge, flour, and pre-roll sector. In fact,
when you look at, go ahead.
I was going to say, in fact, I would say that when you look at those sectors on a whole, I would say that primarily the hemp sector is a criminal enterprise when it comes to vape products, hemp, flour products, and pre-roll products. Yeah.
Now, when you're looking at now when you're looking at vapes, what is inherently fraudulent, or what should consumers be weary of when they're looking at vapes? Is it the Delta 9 THC content? Is it, let's say, free radicals and carcinogens that are inherent in there? Is it purity testing? Like, what is it about the vapes? Because the vapes are one of the most popular form factors there is. And I mean, that's what you see in smoke shops, gas stations. They're readily available and they're easily available. And that's really what's being accessed, if anything, by minors.
Yeah. And let me preface everything with the things we talk about. I'm going to speak from my own experience, my own testing, as opposed to something I heard from somebody else. So here's what I find. I find that there are a couple of issues with vape products. Number one, there's a chance that you're not getting the amount in the vape pen that you think you are. 6 gram vape, 2 gram vapes, half-gram carts, and you're probably, I don't know what the percentage is necessarily, but there are a particular number of products out there where they're not being filled to the level that you're purchasing. Number two, Delta 9, right? What makes something hemp? What makes something cannabis? So if it's hemp, it's 0.3% below THC by Delta 9 THC by dry weight, right? And so the big problem with the hemp manufacturers is that most of them aren't manufacturers in terms of making their own concentrate. They're buying a concentrate on the spot market. They're filling the vape pen at their own facility, and they're selling it to the general public. And product, 91% of what I test comes back as cannabis, not hemp. And I don't mean a little bit off. I mean 400%, 500%. You know, I've tested products that's 25% Delta 9.
Okay,
I mean,
so it's hot. It's hot product.
Yeah,
that's sitting on the shelf.
There's a manufacturer. I just pulled down their advertisement. I'm not going to say who it is. They're advertising hemp distillate at 85 and 95% Delta 9.
Okay. Yeah.
With their own COAs. It's crazy.
Okay. Now, you mentioned the hot button issue that we talk about a lot, which COAs. I've seen false COAs. We've seen Photoshop COAs. How much of the work you do involved is around COAs? And when you do get into that, are you seeing false COAs as well as, let's say, hot product once you go test it? Most of the time, those are going hand in hand. And I mean, are those COAs, in your opinion, built to deceive the consumer, or are they more so to ensure that the manufacturer and the seller is compliant?
Sure. So, you know, there are a couple types of fraud when it comes to COA. One is document fraud, like, hey, somebody took the actual authentic COA and they changed it. They changed the names, they changed the product, and now that they're using that COA to sell their product. The other is fraudulent sample. I create a sample, it's fraud, I send it in the lab and have it tested. And the other one is the lab colludes with the manufacturer and produces false results. In my opinion, about 70% of the product that's for sale out there today in vape pens, we're all talking about vape pens, doesn't have COAs at all. Okay. The other 30% do, and of those 30%, 50 or 60% of those are what I'll call cut and paste fraud, document fraud, and then a fair amount of them are either fraudulent sample or collusion with a lab, which is why when I test a product, 91 out of 100 vape pens fail for potency.
Okay. And do you get the same thing around THCA flower, where you're finding THCA flower is hot? It's hot cannabis, whether it's being inverted from the illicit market or backdoored from the traditional market, not traditional, but the legal market, into those channels. I mean, are you finding the same thing around flower?
Flower's higher. Okay. Flower, you know, I call it one of the great marketing frauds of our time. And that is THCA flower. It's cannabis. Over 99% of what I test from the shelf has more D9 in it than is allowed by the Farm Bill. Predominantly, the COAs that are on hemp distributors, hemp sellers' websites are cut and paste fraud. I mean, predominantly. I just worked a case the other day. 50% of what I pulled off the website was cut and paste document fraud. Forget the other 50% right now. I'm still working on that in terms of sample fraud. I just finished a case today, working on a case today where about 99%, only found 2 out of about 100 COAs that were not cut and paste fraud for THCA flower. So it's a considerable issue out in the market today.
And when you're uncovering these issues, and when you're looking at these issues, who are you doing them on behalf of? Is it law enforcement? Is it litigators that are going to act against these companies? Is it consumer protections agencies? Like, who are you doing this in the name of, per se?
Yeah, primarily it's with litigators. I'm involved in many class action lawsuits across the U.S. that have been filed against hemp companies. Some of it is with activists that say, hey, this has got to get reined in. And some of it's with private sector. For one reason or another, a private citizen wants some work done because they're doing something, or whatever it happens to be.
And do you ever work with companies in a sense of going through their COAs, going through their products, and let's say giving them a stamp of approval to, let's say, legitimize their operations on the hemp side, conversely to what you're doing with uncovering fraud and proving that they're acting in a nefarious way?
Yeah, Anthony, I would love to do that kind of work. I can't find anybody that wants to take me up on it. I wish they would. I wish they would, because I would love to see retailers take a position of, hey, okay, there's a lot of fraud in the hemp industry. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
Product I want on my shelf, I want to be legitimate. I don't want any lab fraud. I don't want any COA fraud. Come in, look at my product, test my product, make sure what I'm getting from the manufacturer is accurate in terms of label information, and let me sell it to the public. That would be great. Just can't.
It would almost make sense. It would make more sense to do that and reverse engineer it and give it a stamp of approval that yes, this is all above board, and almost certify it to a certain degree. But is that? Do you think that that's even possible with the variability and just the free range of products that these smoke shops and these hemp companies are dealing with? Because, like you said, unlike, I guess Florida might be a bad example, but the state-run cannabis industry in Florida, everything is super vertical. So you've got to manufacture, distribute, and retail all of your product, chain of command, seed to sale. It's all very easily traceable. If I'm a hemp company, like you said, I'm getting my distillate from somewhere. My flower is probably coming from somewhere. I've got tons of different suppliers, and maybe I'm shopping price on a weekly to monthly basis. So there's a lot of variability in the products that's actually on my shelf. Would something like that even be possible to certify, or would it just be far too dynamic?
Yeah, and let's look at it. Let's look at a different facet of this for just a second. Mm-hmm. How many businesses are you seeing rated by the DEA recently, or rated by a local law enforcement agency, where they come into the retailer, they do a controlled buy, they test the product, they come back in, they take $300,000 of product out of the store, all your cash, all your this, all your that. Wouldn't it have been a lot cheaper to hire somebody like me to come in and say, and help you put legal product on your shelf, so you don't have to spend 2 years in criminal litigation, a criminal case, trying to get charges dismissed or whatever is going to happen? It is completely doable, and it's doable for the manufacturers too. It is simple process to bench test your product to make sure that what you're sending out into the marketplace is compliant. But there's a reason why they don't do it, and we can all fill in the blanks.
Yeah, I think it's, and two, with what you've seen, I've seen trends in, there are hemp companies out there that are doing it right. I mean, there's companies like Cornbread Hemp. There's a bunch of beverage manufacturers. Is it purposeful that they're staying out of vape and THCA flower because that market is just out of control, and those products from a risk perspective are just not worth the squeeze? Staying in a controlled form factor.
Let me give a shameless plug. Let me give a shameless plug for someone. I don't work for anybody, but Wild, WYLD. They make gummies.
They're great.
I've tested their gummies across the U.S. and they are spot on. I believe that's a company that's doing it right. And see, you can make a gummy that's compliant. I think the problem with the vape market is that people want to have this product for the psychotropic effects. If you're not going to have the D9 in there, it might be problematic. And where do you go to get D8, let's say, right? Mm-hmm. Where do you go to get D8 that's pure, that doesn't have D9 in it? I don't know. Almost none of the bulk manufacturers are selling it. And when it comes to THCA flower, you're exactly right, Anthony. Forget it. The risk is too high. There's almost nothing on the shelf that's going to pass testing.
Do you think that THCA flower gets reined in? That there's going to come a day where it's blatantly obvious for anybody that's involved in these industries, whether it be cannabis, whether it be hemp, that the THCA flower channel is illicit product being inverted into legal channels under the guise of THCA Farm Bill compliant flower, which, from your experiences, 99% of it is BS. When do you think, or when do you see the inflection point being to where we kind of have an about face and realize that it's an illicit cannabis industry operating under the guise of legal Farm Bill compliant hemp?
Sure. So I came out of law enforcement, right? 21 years. What most people don't understand is that it takes the law enforcement and the regulatory sector years to pivot on an issue.
Okay.
They've got to understand what the problem is. They have to set SOPs. They've got to decide what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. They've got to train their personnel. They've got to get the labs all set up. They can't pivot like the private sector can. And
Okay.
I believe the regulatory and enforcement sector have been working on this issue for years, and you're just seeing the results of it here and there, like you have in the raids in North Carolina recently, or look at California. Nothing with THC in it. Texas, the governor just signed the bill, right? Come down on the manufacturer, on everything tested. So it's happening, and it will continue to happen. It just takes time.
Yeah. And do you think that it's so from a law enforcement perspective, like you said, it is onerous to do something, and does an industry like the hemp industry outpace in terms of growth, outpace the lag time that it takes for law enforcement to put a lid on it? Because I mean, we've seen this thing grow aggressively. Sure. It is a deca-billion-dollar industry right now in this country, and as law enforcement, they are ramping up raids and ramping up regulations on a state-by-state basis. But it seems just as fast as they're doing that, the hemp industry is just growing even quicker in terms of velocity and revenue.
And look, it brings in a lot of tax money.
It does.
And so you've got, I think you've got the government folks back there going, well, what do we do and how do we do it? We don't want to lose the tax revenue. We don't want to, we don't want people to lose their jobs, but at the same time, we can't have this happening. Where's the balance? What do we do? I think this goes on for years and years like this.
Yeah, same.
And I think you see a reining in, like you talked about, Anthony. Good word. I like it. Look what California's done. Look what Texas has done. Look what some of these other states have done about, okay, we realize the farm bill's here. We're going to set our own regulations, and we're going to regulate the industry. We're going to put it in metric, whatever they're going to do. So I think you're going to continue to see that. I call it corralling, right?
Yeah.
Continue to corral things and control them and try to bring integrity to the sector. But I think THCA flower loses out.
Same. I think synthetics do as well.
I don't know if synthetics do, but they're problematic. When I test vape pens and it comes back 57% THC, the question I have is what's the other 43%?
Correct.
And we're doing a lot of work right now to figure out what other compounds are in the vape devices. And so I don't know. I think synthetics stay, and maybe not in some states, but I think they probably stay.
With those synthetics, and I mean, I'm old enough I've been around since the vitamin E acetate in traditional cannabis vapes happened. Obviously, we saw Juul. When something becomes a public health crisis per se, and I don't even know if I want to call the vitamin E acetate a public health crisis, but it was national. It was national to the point where it had repercussions directly on the legal cannabis industry. With your work and with what we're seeing from, let's say, potential class actions, these things starting to pile up, do you see there being an inflection point where it's like a Juul or it's like a vitamin E acetate moment where they're like, all right, there's a zero tolerance moving forward. Like, this stuff needs to go in terms of the vapes, like we have seen in years past
from the regulatory folks.
From the regulatory folks.
Yeah, some states. I think every state is going to have its own set of rules and tolerances like it does now. Maybe California is more tolerant than some other states. Maybe Texas is less tolerant than most others, right? So I think you're going to see a hodgepodge of regulatory schemes and actions across the nation, really.
Okay. Are there any best practices that you would tell consumers what to look for or what to do if they are purchasing hemp products? How to detect fraud, or how to look for something that is above board in terms of testing or purity?
Yeah, I would say stay away from THC flower unless you have a high tolerance for risk.
Okay.
And when it comes to vape pens, look, ask the store, let me see the COA. And COA, testing records, right? Certificate of Analysis. The COA should have a QR code on it. Scan the QR code with your phone. That's what I do. Scan the QR code with your phone. And if the document on your phone is the same as the document in your hand, hey, great. You've got a product that's might be okay. But really, the reality of it is when you go into the store and you see THCX and THCO and THCP and hydro whatever and live resin and live rosin and organic this and organic that. Listen, don't buy it for any of those things. Manufacturers print boxes up by the truckload, and then they go out and buy product on the spot market and fill the pen.
Yeah.
The testing I've done, it looks nothing like what's on the package. So if you go into a store and you buy a vape pen, you're going to be inhaling D8, D9, and whatever else by and large.
Yeah, we've had one of the CEOs from the hemp beverage space that has a degree in chemical engineering. And he was like, well, when you look at these synthetics and when you look at a lot of these derivatives, like we don't know what free radicals or what heavy metals are introduced in these processes that are not purified to the point where it should be inhaled. And then they go straight into the pens. And I'm assuming also getting the products and getting the chemicals from China that are then chemically converted adds a completely different wrench into the equation in terms of the actual overall product and in terms of purity and integrity.
Yeah. You've got the isolates coming from overseas, and then you've got the bulk concentrates being made, manufactured here. Yeah.
Well, this has been great. This has been quite educational. I mean, I definitely look forward to following your work and keeping in touch. I'd love to have you on if some big news breaks around any of these class actions or any of these lawsuits that are potentially coming down on hemp. And I kind of just want everybody to understand, like, we're not trying to demonize hemp. We're trying to shine a light on how to get integrity into the sector and to educate consumers on what they should be looking for in terms of these products. Because like we've said, there are good actors. There are also a lot of bad actors, and there are also a lot of illicit actors. And the hemp industry is fraught with potential criminal enterprises that are within it. Lawrence.
Hey everyone, thanks again for watching here today. Listen, if you're getting value from us here at TDR, make sure to check us out at TDR Plus. It's our exclusive membership community. Why? Well, you'll see CEO interviews that go beyond business, showing a personal side that you won't find anywhere else, including the biggest names in the industry. Plus, you'll get insights from analysts and day traders on where the industry's headed, both short-term and long-term, and a direct chat group with our team. It's only $7 a month, just 25 cents a day, and it helps support everything we do here at TDR. If you want to join, just click the join button below and become a TDR Plus member today. And once again, a big thank you for being part of our community. So that's it for today. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.